This is eCoffee with Experts, where marketers and founders share what's actually working in SEO, AI, and digital growth. Grab your coffee and fuel your mind as we chat with top minds about their wins, struggles, and lessons you won't find in a blog post. Brought to you by Digital Web Solutions, we bring real talk to help you grow your business, one episode at a time. Let's get started.
Hey, hi everyone. Welcome to your show, eCoffee with Experts. This is your host, Ranmay here. And today we have Andy Headington, who is the CEO of Adido agency with us. Hey, Andy, how's it going?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm very honored and pleased to be here.
Lovely. Andy, before we move any forward, why don't you talk us through your journey a bit? 20 plus years in the industry now, how it all started, how's it going, and also a bit about your agency, what you guys do, what are your core offerings, and we will take it off from there.
No worries. My job at Adido currently is CEO. I helped to found the company in 2003 from Bournemouth University with three of my then graduated course friends. We started in our house, the four of us, building websites for local businesses for £300, £500. After a year or so, I realized these websites were not really doing anything in terms of getting people to look at them. So I started thinking about this thing I'd heard about called search engine optimization. And I started playing with this new tool Google had released called AdWords. And my SEO and PPC journey started around 2004. I then became like a full-time SEO, if you like, for a few years, as well as helping to run the company, doing talks. And we grew from the four of us to about 40 odd people within 10 years, winning awards, multi-million turnover, offices, lots and lots of great things. But that only lasted for so long. The market matured. Businesses became more competitive. People took things in-house because the internet was so important to them. And after a while, we had a very sort of wobbly few years and we lost a couple of the directors and we shrunk the team down to about 20 people in around 2016, 2017, at which point I became more involved in the strategy of the business with my business partner, Alex, who's been with me since day one. And we decided at that point that we need to be very specialist in what we did rather than building websites for solicitors and building websites for e-commerce companies. It's like, well, we need to be more than just an agency that's won some awards, because there are lots of those. So we decided that we needed to be expert in a field. I'd loved travel since I was very young. I traveled the world. We had some very good clients in that space and decided strategically to move into this as an area for us to become even bigger experts in. And so our travel marketing journey started in around 2018, which was building some good headway. And then obviously the world shut down for several years, which was a slight problem to our plans. However, since COVID has thankfully passed, we're now in a good place and the team is still around 20 people. We keep it around that level because it's easier to manage. We want to keep a very high bar of people who join the company and also allow our clients to talk directly to those experts without several layers of management, which you tend to get with the bigger agencies. That's a very quick view, I guess, of our agency. But even in 2025, 2026, we are still building websites. We're still optimizing websites and we're still trying to push traffic to them on behalf of our clients and trying to demonstrate as best we can how many bookings they've made, how many trips they've sold.
Lovely. Quite a journey, I must say. So, Annie, you have spent, more than a decade deep inside the travel industry now. So how have you seen the transition? What is the biggest shift, you would have seen in how travel brands generate bookings today as compared to when you started back in the day?
Yeah, I mean, there are still a lot of things that haven't changed for better or worse. And particularly, I would say the over-reliance of Google Ads to generate bookings. Many businesses in travel still is their biggest spend outside of staff, perhaps probably still the thing they should be doing better at in terms of attribution or call tracking, or nowadays pushing data back in terms of data feeds. So that hasn't changed. What I think has changed a lot is just the way that people are researching and travelers are being inspired. So as I say, 10 years ago, it was largely Google optimization. It was largely Google ads. Perhaps they were still doing brochures. Perhaps they're very focused on email with I call it maybe a social media revolution of sorts, but just the generations that have come up with a mobile phone first, the people that have grown up with video as a primary way of discovery, all of those things, they've all aged up as well. So we now have YouTube, the biggest streaming platform in the world, being watched more in people's houses and more accessible content through TikTok, Instagram, etc., which whilst it doesn't necessarily directly make a booking happen, it certainly is a way for people to discover new destinations, to hear about them from their friends or the algorithm, and then to have a place in their mind for when they're thinking about booking next times. We've gone away. I think we're starting to move away from this whole performance-based approach of I need to measure my traffic, I need to measure my clicks, I need to measure my bookings, more to what I hope will be more of a place of I'm creating the best content I can, I understand my audience, and I'm in the right places, and at some point the bookings will flow through. But that's quite a hard thing for a lot of clients to get their heads around of I can't
Yeah.
see it all, and I can't track it all, and I can't measure it all. So my job is trying to educate people about that journey. But certainly social media has become a very, very prominent thing, and I think it will probably get bigger.
I'm sure it has, and it will, with due course of time, with the, access to, like you said, the new generation with the access to technology that we have today versus what we had earlier, right? So things gonna change. And talking about that, you have worked with brands all across, UK, US, globally. So what are some of the indicators that kind of tell you that, okay, this travel brand is structurally ready from a digital asset perspective for scalable growth?
I think I would probably say the biggest thing that's helping brands to grow is the data aspect. If you
Hmm.
don't understand enough about your current bookings, your current customers, and how your spend is helping to make those things happen, then I think you're really on the back foot. One of the things when someone asked me before COVID of like, well, why did you pick travel? And the thing we've always really excelled at is just the data analysis that we do, the data care that we have, and the process we put in place to try and understand if I've done these things over here, have they then generated results at the other end? And because travel is a very elongated experience, to me, that's a good opportunity for us to add our expertise and bring the most amount of value rather than e-commerce, which can be find product, click, buy. There's quite a short funnel. So having data is something I always thought was really important. I thought travel companies would also think it's very important. But even now in 2025, if I speak to lots of new business clients and we say, well, what's their booking system like? What are your repeat business like? And there's lots of usually blank faces or, oh, our data's quite good. And actually you look and it's not. But the companies that have done data particularly well, I mean, even just in the UK, people like On the Beach and Love Holidays, these are primarily internet-based companies, right? So they got data right. They got their APIs correct. They got their attribution understood. That helped them to grow to hundreds of millions of pounds of revenue and bookings and profit, which a lot of companies, I think, still haven't done. And if you talk to most people outside of travel, when they come in, they go, guys, you're way behind. You need to be thinking about data more effectively. You need to think about your booking systems, your integrations to CRM. So I'd say that's like the biggest thing that still needs addressing, and hopefully we can help.
Absolutely. And, across the brands that you work with, which growth lever still you feel, kind of remains underutilized despite being proven and measurable?
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to, I don't want to sound repetitive, but I think still Google Ads is still the largest spend for most businesses. And I still see that most of them are not doing it right, as to my point earlier on about pushing things like booking values through, pushing attribution of successful clicks back to the systems. All of those things are very important. I think the other thing which gets often overlooked and probably should be another lever for growth is email. Again, we speak to lots of clients who are probably spending too much on Google Ads in some ways and not enough on their what you would say in the industry of repeats. How many people are coming back to you? How many people are rebooking? And looking at all of those data points to see, like, it may cost you £300 to get a new client through Google Ads. It might cost you 30 through email, but people are so focused on acquisition, but they don't think about the retention part. And I think that's, again, an overlooked part of the puzzle.
Absolutely. And like we were talking about in the green room, Andy, as we move towards 2020s, because of all the AI evolution that has happened in the last 3 years or so, especially in the last 6 months with so much, of movement in the space, how do you think, 2026 is going to shape out from, SEO, PPC perspective with the AI intervention that's happening?
Yeah, I mean, we did talk about this earlier on. I think there is going to be quite a lot of change 2026. Whether it's going to be as big and as vast as people expect, I'm not quite sure. One of the advantages I have, I guess, of 20 odd years of doing this is that I get to see the the arc of change. Whilst everybody, or maybe it's ChatGPT, says there's an ever-changing landscape. I think that's a ChatGPT phrase. Every landscape's always changed, right? So now is no different to 20 years ago when people had internet for the first time and they thought this is all revolutionary, which it was. We're at a
Mhm.
point now where AI is here. People have used it for a long time, but I don't see radical shifts in 2026 of now I'm going to book all of my holidays through ChatGPT. Now I'm going to ask all my questions through Claude. Oh, I'm never going to use Google ever again. Like those things, they just won't happen. Humans are so habitual that it's just going to be a slow nudge. And without meaning to sort of repeat myself for the 700th time, like what ChatGPT does is probably not as important. It won't be as important as what Google does. So what Google is starting to do though is push more AI and AI reviews. You've probably seen it through the work you've done. That then hurts organic traffic, and increasingly PPC ads will change shape or will lose control because AI mode or AI reviews will be wrapping some ads in there, and we won't necessarily see the phrases that we saw to get the traffic. We won't see necessarily the costs being as cheap as they were, but they're not going to be radically different. It's going to be, again, slightly different campaigns, slightly different reporting, and probably, sadly, slightly higher costs.
Absolutely. In terms of the impact on the travel industry with search results shifting towards AI overviews and LLMs summaries so much, which part of travel brands' SEO strategy you would say would need immediate recalibration?
Yeah. I mean, certainly content and how you create content and what you say, I think we found this year is increasingly important. We speak to a lot of travel companies and they will often say, like, we are unique in what we do. We have the best XYZ. We are genuine experts in these countries, and et cetera, et cetera. And I'm sure that they definitely, a lot of them are. But if you then go onto their website, it will be very bland copy. It'll be very generic content. It won't be very emotive. So I think the content piece is something we've realized there's lots of people who've created content on the website over the last few years through various people, various agencies, various teams. The content's quite weak. Sometimes they've used ChatGPT to create the content, and I really think it doesn't present them in the best light. So for SEO, like there's been many case studies. Again, you probably have seen these of I created loads of content through AI writing tools. I uploaded it all, and my rankings went up and up and up, and then dived and tanked. And I think that investment into content and doing it properly from SEO perspective, whilst it might be expensive, like it's more expensive to not have any rankings. So you have to play the longer game. And again, I don't know what your view on that is, but I think it's an overlooked part perhaps, or we can do it for cheap now. Like you can't.
And talking about CRMs, Andy, you would have worked with CRMs like HubSpot and Salesforce. So what is that, most common data gap that prevents travel brands from properly understanding the booking intent of the end user?
Again, it depends on which part of travel you're talking about. Most of our clients, most of our people we work with or have conversations with will still say 30, 50, 80% of our calls are what we get our bookings from. So they don't book online. They don't want to book online because it's a complicated product or they're perhaps a slightly older audience. And so if you're spending 10,000, 20,000, 50,000 pounds a month on Google ads or Meta ads, getting people to your website, they then pick up the phone and they make a booking, like that journey then breaks because there's no online attribution.
Mhm.
So the biggest gap, I think, in CRM data, booking data is just around this whole phone attribution. And there are many companies in the UK that offer great services there. When you go onto the website and you've come from Google Ads or Facebook, the number will change dynamically. The phone call rings, it goes into Google Analytics or goes into HubSpot, and you can then see that this campaign here generate this phone call generate this booking made this amount of profit. As I go back to what I was saying before, that to me is an exciting part of we've spent £1,000 and we've got 5,000 back. Most companies don't have that. And this data
Yeah.
gap is quite large. Some of our clients, 50, 60% of their bookings are on the phone. And we don't have any phone tracking. If you fix that, I could turn off 10 grand a month or 50 grand a year of your Google ads and save you a load of money. But it's something that people don't often want to do or think is too hard.
Absolutely. And, in terms of public speaking, you have done quite a few conferences, right? And won a few awards, right? So how do you see public speaking evolving as a marketing and trust building tool for travel brands in 2026 and beyond?
For travel brands themselves, I mean, there's quite a lot of activity in the UK, like quite a lot of road shows, and good chance to meet a lot of travel agents. So I think the smarter ones are definitely investing in that face-to-face relationship part.
Mhm.
Or some of the end buyers as well. I think there's lots of trade shows they can go to. I mean, WTM has parts of that. There are many other ones which allow people to meet those travelers face to face. And I think, again, going back to maybe what I've touched upon, like this measurability of everything is sometimes quite hard. And you say, well, I spent 20 grand on a trade show. How much bookings did I get? I don't know. But maybe you're building an awareness of your brand with those audiences that in 2 years, 5 years, 3 years, 10 years, they may want to come back to. Sometimes hard to justify, but I think the face-to-face angle for travel brands is important. Obviously, you need to know your audience is going to be there. If you're selling a luxury 20 grand villa holiday or a trip of a lifetime in Africa, you can't be at a generic show. So you need to be thinking about, well, where are my audience? Are they going to be in London, in Manchester? Are they have high budget or really cheap budget or whatever? Again, just basic marketing principles, but events should be part of the mix, I'd definitely say.
Perfect, Andy. Thank you so much for the insights into the travel industry and SEO paid search space overall. But before we let you go, a couple of questions. One is for our audiences. Since you have been in the space for more than 2 decades now, and I've clearly scaled it up. So for our young listeners who are trying to make a mark, trying to break through, start their own entrepreneurship journey, or start their own agency per se. So what would that piece of advice be?
Don't start an agency. Certainly, if you're trying to find a job, if you're trying to work out if this is for you, then just invest your time, care. And we have a value at Adido called being curious. Like, well, why is that ranking? Why is that not ranking? Take some time to dig around, take some time to read, take some time to ask questions, put the theories you have into practice and demonstrate for yourself, if you can, that something will work. And if it doesn't work, and go, well, why did that not work? Reflect on it, try and improve. Far too often, because we've got so many dashboards and so many data points, people will just look at a number and take it as face value. Our sales are up. Okay. Why are your sales up? What's happened? Have you invested in something? Has a competitor died? Have you put an offer on? Etc. 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 I think there's just a lack of, I would say, general lack of curiosity among marketeers, and certainly the younger audiences, where they're used to pressing a button or getting something instantly and not having to do sometimes as much manual work to get an answer. I think that's my biggest tip would be just to be a bit more analytical and a bit more curious and demonstrate to yourself that what you're saying is actually true.
Lovely pointers there. And your favorite client story?
Oh, good or bad? I don't know.
Anything which would have inspired you, or something that's kind of stuck with you for a longer time?
Well, I had a client recently. He came to us. This isn't necessarily inspirational. It's actually negative, but I guess goes to my point of the data and the audience matching. They hadn't spent much money on Google Ads previously, and they got convinced by someone to spend a lot of money. They spent $40,000 in a month on Google Ads, and they were only able to attribute one booking of £11,000 to that. So that's not a great example of how to do it properly, but I guess demonstrates if you put the wrong thing in the wrong hand, then you can waste a lot of money, which is certainly something I'm completely anti. So yeah, just be careful when you're spending and do it properly.
Lovely, Andy. Thank you so much once again for taking out time to do this with us. Really appreciate the insights you've shared today. For audiences, if they want to reach out to you, how would they do that?
Best way would be to find me on LinkedIn. So just search Andy Headington. You can, if you want to read more, buy my book. So if you go onto Waterstones in the UK or Amazon International Kogan Page website, my book comes out on the 3rd of January next year, called Digital Marketing for Travel Brands. So you can read more about me there.
Very nice. Lovely. All right, Andy. Thank you so much, man. Cheers.
Thanks a lot. Good to see you all. Cheers.